As the weather begins to warm up and all the snow starts to melt, some animals in the Northeast are waking up from hibernation, while others are beginning their spring migration. But some animals are actually doing both. Today, we're going to learn about a group of amphibians that's been making their way from upland hills down to a vernal pool just like this. I'm Jane Lindholm, and this is But Why from Vermont Public, where we explore the science behind what's happening on your local landscape each month. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a pretty rainy spring day here in Williston, Vermont, and we are going to use this weather to help us talk about something special: mole salamanders. Now, when you think about moles, where do you picture them living? Underground, right? Well, that's also where mole salamanders live, except during a very specific time of year, early spring, when they go from upland, where they are hibernating for the winter, down to vernal pools to mate. So today we're going to learn a little bit more about what they're doing at this time of year. And I'm joined by herpetologist Kate Kelly. Hey, Kate.
Hey, nice to see you, Jane.
Nice to see you too. Now, I mentioned vernal pools. And I know that vernal means spring, so a vernal pool is just a spring puddle?
Pretty much. So vernal pools fill up in the spring with rain and snow melt, and they will dry out at some point during the year.
How do those mole salamanders, and when we talk about mole salamanders, let's talk about one in particular, the spotted salamander. It's this beautiful, pretty big salamander, kind of grayish, with bright yellow spots on it. It's been up in the hills. How does it get to the vernal pool?
Yeah, so in the spring, usually on these first rainy nights of the spring, has to be above freezing, but not by much. They will start to come out from their underground burrows where they've spent the winter and migrate, just walk over the land to these pools where they're gonna breed.
You wanna know what it looks like for those salamanders and all these other amphibians that are crossing, kind of migrating from the uplands down to the vernal pools? Kate and I actually went out on one of the earliest wet but above freezing spring nights in April to see what we could find. So let's take a look. That was so cool. I loved seeing spotted salamanders because even though I walk in the woods a lot here in Vermont, I never see them. So they come down here, and as you mentioned, they mate here. And then what happens to their eggs? How does that all happen?
So the eggs are laid in the pools. They are sort of enclosed by a layer of jelly, and each female will lay up to about 4 egg masses, so bunches of eggs. Each of those masses maybe has somewhere between 50 and 100 eggs in it. And then those eggs, the young, the little embryos that are growing inside the eggs, will start to develop. The egg masses will kind of get looser and disintegrate. The young will hatch out and they'll just be swimming around in the pool. And then they will eventually in the fall start to go back upland, same as their parents did, but without their parents there to guide them. And they need to go up and find a good spot to spend the winter.
At this time of year, if somebody's out at a vernal pool and trying to spot salamander eggs, is there an easy way to tell the difference between salamander eggs and frog eggs?
There is actually. So one of the frogs that lays eggs in these types of pools is the wood frog, and they are the most common sort of species widespread across the state of Vermont. And their eggs have sort of a bumpy layer on the outside. So around each little dot that you see, which is an embryo, which will become a tadpole, you see sort of the external layer of the egg mass. You'll see these little bumps around each egg. Salamander eggs have an extra layer of jelly around the entire egg mass, so it's like a solid ball. when you pick it up, it feels like almost like a softball in your hand. It's very firm. There are some other salamanders that do not have those really firm egg masses, and they're sort of more gelatinous, but they do still have that extra layer of jelly around the outside, so you don't see those individual bumps of each individual egg.
And then once they're out of this pool and with the adults that are already there, are they spending most of their adult life underground?
Yeah, they are. A lot of them are actually feeding underground in these small mammal tunnels. They will come up sometimes on rainy nights to forage, so to eat on the surface, but most of the time they are underground or inside rotting logs, somewhere where they can stay moist and survive.
Well, thanks for braving the weather with me and talking about salamanders. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.